Welcome to this Masterclass Explainer. Today we're embarking on what I like to call the journey of the master scheduler. We are going to talk about how to take the sheer absolute chaos of multi-million-dollar mega projects and transform it into structured, logic-driven success. Whether you're an engineering grad, an MEP professional, or a site engineer trying to make that leap into a planning role, this session, which aligns directly with official course code 26MESPSP1, is going to be your complete professional training. We're breaking down the exact elite workflows used in global EPC and infrastructure projects so you can ace those PMP certifications and absolutely dominate your next interview.
So here is our roadmap for today. We'll kick things off with the foundations of project planning, move into mastering the critical path, tackle cost and resource allocation, explore progress monitoring and optimization, and wrap it all up with professional software and reporting. Let's get right to it. Section 1. Foundations of Project Planning.
All right, our very first essential tool is the Work Breakdown Structure, or WBS. According to international standards, the WBS is all about dividing insanely complex projects into manageable deliverables. Think about it, you literally cannot manage a massive EPC pipeline or a huge housing project as just one giant task. It's impossible. You have to hierarchically decompose it into distinct phases, like site preparation, foundation, framing, and MVP rough-ins. This is what creates that foundational roadmap that every single engineering contractor on the site is going to follow.
Now, a core tenet of professional project controls, and you really need to drill this into your mind, is the 100% rule. This rule flat out demands that your decomposed work packages capture every single piece of the project scope, with absolutely zero overlap and zero omissions. Basically, if a deliverable isn't explicitly in your WBS, it simply doesn't exist in your project. Adhering to this guarantees that when you finally hand off a package to the civil or mechanical team, they know exactly where their responsibility begins and exactly where it ends.
Moving right along to Section 2, Mastering the Critical Path.
If you want to master time on a project, you absolutely must master the Critical Path Method, or CPM. The PMBOK guide officially defines this as the longest sequence of tasks that must be completed on time to meet your ultimate project deadline. Listen, the critical path has zero room for error. None. If any single activity on this path slips by just one day, your entire mega project is delayed by a day. It is the absolute heartbeat of your project schedule.
Let's say we're looking at some typical tank construction schedule data. To figure out our critical path, we apply forward and backward pass calculations. We calculate the earliest start and finish on our forward pass, and then the latest start and finish on our backward pass. The mathematical difference between those? That's your slack, or your float. In a standard tank project, foundational tasks like design tank and construct foundation will often show zero slack, putting them squarely on the critical path. As a project controls engineer, those are the tasks you have to monitor like a hawk.
But to really engineer schedule flexibility, you have to deeply understand the difference between free float and total float. Free float is basically your local maneuvering room. It protects the start of your next specific activity, meaning you can afford a slight delay without messing up the very next crew in line. Total float, on the other hand, protects the entire project deadline. Understanding this distinction is huge because it allows site engineers to juggle multiple demanding subcontractors without accidentally triggering massive contractual delay penalties.
All right, on to Section 3, Cost and Resource Allocation. Let's talk about money and manpower.
This is where we bring in the Bill of Quantities, or the BOQ. This is an absolutely essential tender document heavily relied upon in the construction and MEP industries. What the BOQ does is take the exact physical quantities from your engineering drawings. We're talking meters of pipe, cubic yards of concrete, tonnage of steel, and it maps them directly back to your work breakdown structure. This step is crucial because it allows you to assign highly accurate, concrete costs to every single work package you've created.
Without that rock-solid BOQ mapping, you're going to run into budget discrepancies. Imagine an exact $6,000 cost overrun popping up in an interior wall framing project, simply caused by unanticipated material expenses that nobody forecasted during planning. Now, scale that up. When you're managing multi-million-dollar EPC contracts, a poorly integrated BOQ doesn't just cost thousands. It can literally cost millions and entirely destroy your project baselines.
So, to solve those very real physical resource constraints, we start with resource loading. That means assigning the required manpower and heavy machinery to our scheduled tasks. But here is the classic problem. What happens when your schedule says you need 5 excavators on Tuesday, but you physically only have 3? Well, that's where resource leveling comes to the rescue.
We take that float we calculated earlier and use it to smooth out the demand, shifting non-critical tasks around to solve bottlenecks and prevent our teams from being completely over-allocated.
Let's transition into Section 4, Progress Monitoring and Optimization.
When your project inevitably falls a bit behind, you're faced with the high-stakes puzzle of schedule compression. You generally have two primary weapons here. First is fast tracking, which means taking sequential tasks and deciding to run them in parallel. It usually doesn't cost more money, but it dramatically increases your project risk. Your other option is crashing. This essentially means throwing money at the problem, paying for extra shifts or rushing shipping. It definitely shortens the duration, but it inflates your costs and frequently lowers the overall quality due to site overcrowding.
To navigate all of this safely, we utilize Earned Value Management, or EVM. Guys, this is the absolute gold standard for project controls. EVM allows you to constantly, mathematically track your Schedule Performance Index, or SPI, and your Cost Performance Index, CPI. If your SPI drops below 1.0, you are officially behind schedule. But the beauty of EVM is that by forecasting completion dates based on your current performance, you can proactively develop extension of time recovery schedules long before the client even realizes there's a risk.
Finally, we reach Section 5, Professional Software and Reporting.
Okay, we have to talk about Oracle Primavera P6 Enterprise Project Portfolio Management. This is the undisputed industry-standard software for professional planners. It seamlessly brings your critical path schedule, your complex resource leveling algorithms, and your earned value management metrics all together into one incredibly powerful multi-user environment. Seriously, if you want to work on international megaprojects in oil and gas, infrastructure, or EPC, mastering Primavera P6 is pretty much an absolute non-negotiable requirement.
So what is the ultimate value of tying your WBS, your BOQ, and your schedule together in an advanced software like Primavera P6 or Power BI? Total, uncompromised visibility. It completely transforms you from a reactive manager into a proactive leader. It gives you the power to catch a minor site inspection overage or a slight dip in crew productivity way before it cascades into a massive project failure. You are essentially predicting the future, so you have time to change it.
With the workflow of a master scheduler now completely mapped out for you, from basic WBS decomposition all the way to advanced EVM forecasting in Primavera P6, you are now armed with the knowledge of a true professional. So the only question left to ask is this: when the inevitable delays strike your next multi-million-dollar mega project, will you react with panic, or will you command the schedule? Thank you so much for joining me for this Masterclass Explainer. Keep learning, keep planning, and I'll see you next time.